Hello and welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey.
You ready to Norse around?
Sure, why not?
Well, we are going to talk about season
Stop
10.
yelling.
We're going to talk about season 10, episode 7, Norsing around.
Yes.
Because there's so much
Norsing to do.
No, so much Norse talk in this episode. What's your favorite Norse mythology character?
Can I say the Odin's Ravens?
Sure. You don't like Thor the best?
Well, I mean, if we're going to go with the movies, and I mean, Thor is hilarious. Then if that's the case, I'm going Loki.
Loki. Okay.
Because hilarious.
He's pretty good.
I mean, he's mischievous.
Mm-hmm, just like you.
Yeah, so
that sounds like something that it sounds like something you and Gary and Loki have in common.
Do you think Gary's mischievous?
I guarantee
I bet you Charles is mischievous.
Could be. All right, well, hello. It could be. Yes, it could. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks so much for our live chat showing up to be with us today. And hello to everybody in podcast land. We are here to talk about, like I said at the top of the show, season 10, episode 7, Norsing Around. And we had a lot of fun stuff happen in this episode. We got some sad news at the garden shaft.
Oh, I was like, sad news.
But then we had some, hopeful news maybe in the money pit.
We did.
And in the swamp.
Well, the garden shaft is technically in the money pit area. So
yeah, but what about the really good news at Smith's Cove? Oh wait, nothing at Smith's Cove.
Why do you do that?
When
you just throw out these random things.
I miss Smith's Cove. I just thought I needed to bring it up because we're talking about the swamp. I've even mentioned the mega bin more than I've mentioned, maybe not on the podcast, but like in our live streams and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think I've mentioned the mega bin more than Smith's Cove.
I don't think you mentioned it in the live stream, but he did literally ask me the other day, next time I talk to someone who asked, what the heck is going on with the mega bin, guys? We want to know more.
Yeah, we do. All right. So would you like to talk about this episode?
Only if you stop yelling.
I'm not yelling. I'm talking like...
They're going to hear you in Canada.
Okay. Why don't you talk? What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's see here. What is our best flow as far as...
Well, we should probably... why don't we start with Jack Begley and your boy, Gary Drayton, on Lot 8 doing some metal detecting.
My homeboy.
Yeah.
Gary, if you see this, I feel like now since you're my boy, we should have a secret handshake.
Right.
Because, that's what happens when they're your boy.
You want to show everybody our secret handshake?
It won't be a secret anymore then.
Okay. Am I your boy too?
Wait, I have to use the other hand. My boy.
Okay.
Oh, I only got 2 hands, so I guess I can only have 2 my boys.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
clearly,
I give you one of them.
I know. Let's see here. This is my left hand and right hand. I think I called you my right hand boy.
Well, I'm right here. I'm at your right hand.
Hey,
so.
That's true. Look at that.
Yeah. So, all right.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about Lot 8 and what went down doing some metal detecting.
Copy that.
With the metal detecting ninja.
The one and only.
The one and only.
Okay, so the metal detecting ninja and Jack.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name a couple episodes? The something.
Who?
Oh, the Jack 6000.
That was like 2 seasons ago.
Okay, not episodes, but so we have the ninja and the Jack 6000 on Lot 8.
Yep.
And we get a recap of the items that they've already found there, including the copper piece that was found 2 weeks ago, which we do get further discussion about later in this episode. We should just hop to that after this.
Yeah, sure. We could talk about Mr. Ed. That'd be great.
Dr.
Edwin.
Dr. Edwin.
Yes.
But yeah, Lot 8, the giving lot that just keeps giving, that's finally been cleared out, and they get to check out all kinds of places. I noticed that when they were digging this particular time when they pulled up the
claw hammer.
The claw. It was pretty close to that center road because they weren't necessarily in the middle of the lot, which is what they had most recently cleared. But what else? I wanted to make an observation, and there it is.
Well, it might not be their favorite lot after this week. They might have a new lot that gets their attention beginning next week, but we'll get to that later.
Well, it doesn't mean it'll be a favorite, but it'll at least be up there. It's fun. It's exciting.
It is. So we'll get there. All right. So we had Jack and Gary, like Deidre said. They had found, we had a little recap of items that had been found on lot 8, kind of like every time they go back to lot 8, they're like the brooch, this, that, and the other.
The usual lot 8 recap.
Yeah. But Gary starts detecting again and he gets a hit and he says, he gets real excited and he calls it a little screamer. Okay. And
he loves calling things screamers. That's great.
Yeah. And then, so Jack starts digging and, then Gary gets in there with his pinpoint detector, right? And he finds the thing, and it's still stuck in the ground. And what does he say?
Said, let's see if I can winkle it out. So is a winkle to shimmy, if you will? I mean, he's talked about winkling several times, and I feel like winkling into the brush to get in further, winkling out, so it feels like a little shimmy and a shake.
Little shake.
So it's a dance. It's not a gold dance. It's a winkle dance. It's a shimmy and a shake.
All right. So that happened, and they find what is what we talked about just moments ago, but a claw hammer.
A claw.
And it's broken, but they're excited about it. Gary talks about how he had previously found another claw hammer on lot 15.
And we get a flashback.
Got a flashback. Then we had a recap, we had the flashback included a recap of what Dr. Christopher Brousseau had to say about it, and that it could, those kind of claw hammers date all the way back to the 1500s. I mean, that's a long time ago.
It is, and it's interesting because I was noticing in that flashback when they were showing the other claw hammer that was, fully intact. I was like, dang, I think I have 3 of those in my garage. But it looks just like the one that he pulled out as well. But I don't know. What if it's like a modern claw hammer? Since that design hasn't, modern, but that design hasn't changed in quite some time. Apparently it was a very good design then and now.
Well, it's very useful.
It is very useful.
Yep.
What?
Next, after 1500s, your turn.
Oh. Gary notes the small size of the claw hammer, and they end up bagging and tagging it, which he says.
Yeah, the reason I wanted you to read that part is because I had a typo, and
I know it says Harry, and I was like,
I was hoping you'd give me some.
I was like, there's no Sasquatch in here.
Yeah, but I was hoping you'd give me some guff about that.
Oh, I was being nice. I was letting it slide. Okay, so, and then, of course, we see in a side interview, Marty says that lot 8 is really interesting because there's never been a house there. So what has happened there, and why are they finding these things? Marty, as far as we know, and as far as it's been documented, there's never been a house there. There could be plenty of roads going through it. That's why we drop in our treasure.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I have for lot 8.
That's all for lot 8, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we must go to the war room to talk about the copper piece that we... That
you mean
found,
the brass piece?
Sorry, brass piece that was found last week on lot 8 that we brought in Mr. Ed for.
Dr. Edwin Barnhart.
Yes.
Oh, he's not a horse.
By the way, Deidre and I watched an episode of Mr. Ed a couple days ago.
Oh my gosh. So Mr. Ed, he's like, here, let's watch this. And he pulls it up on the TV via YouTube and the Chromecast. And it's the only one he can find.
It was on an app that wasn't YouTube, but
okay,
that matters.
Whatever. And it says the lost episode. And he starts playing it. And I'm just listening because I'm watching / listening to it from the kitchen, which is near the TV, and I'm making my breakfast, and I'm like, what the heck? The whole thing, I was like, this is just an advertisement for war bonds.
It was.
And it's how long? Like,
it was like a 25-minute
okay, so
episode.
it was like a 25-minute, not subliminal, in your face messaging about buying war bonds. Even Mr. Ed did it, the horse. And he just like picks up the phone and uses with a stick. He starts dialing. And
he just dialed 0 to get the operator.
Oh, that's right, because efficiency. And he's a talking horse, like, yeah, I want horse bonds, war bonds, blah blah blah. And I'm like, this feels very subliminal. But in your face, right? I was like, is this what all of Mr. Ed is like, where it's constantly selling war bonds? It weirded me out. And what I had equated it to was, you know how Captain America, like in the first movie, they go on this campaign to sell the bonds, like, and it's just again and again, and there's like music and people dancing. I was like, did he and Mr. Ed team up? Because that's what it feels like. Yeah. And so now I'm concerned that all Mr. Ed, this talking horse, is doing is selling war bonds. Maybe Oak Island is just a vault for war bonds.
From the Revolutionary War?
Uh-huh.
Possibly.
Anyway,
sorry about that tangent. I just thought it was funny that I, got her to watch an episode. Even though
we did not make it through. I said, you can turn this off now.
It was fun. It's
I almost wanted to go buy some war bonds. So whatever it was working.
Okay. All right.
The lost episode. So I thought this was going to be something super special. It was all right. It was special.
Yeah, that's the only one that was available. So
I guess you better get looking for a much more regular episode.
Oh, you're gonna give him another chance?
I'll give him a whole 3 minutes to see if I'm gonna shut it off after the advertising.
A horse is a horse, of course. All right, so let's go back to the war room.
Yeah, let's do that.
So we have Dr. Edwin Barnhart showing back up. We have Rick, Alex, Jack, Scott, Gary, and Steve.
Yes.
Standing by, wanting to receive the information that he gives them.
Yes. So he's Dr. Barnhart is there via video conference in the war room to discuss the copper artifact found on lot 8 1 week ago and provide what they say is his final analysis. I was like, dang, is he getting cut loose after this or something of the object for the team? And Dr. Edwin relays the information that the object's composition of metal is that of an alloy, copper, zinc, and a tiny bit of lead, which we knew anyways based off of the XRF findings, but he is repeating that back to us because he didn't have the XRF findings before, right? When he gave his initial analysis.
I think we had him before he did.
That's what I'm saying is because Rick had told him, oh yeah, we have, these 2 machines, like, cool flex, bro. And we'll send those reports over to you. All we had sent you was a picture and wanted your opinion. But, archaeologists like all the facts. And so does Steve, because he doesn't have opinions. He just has facts.
Steve says he deals in facts only. Okay, bro.
the facts. Well, I'm yet to see Steve present a theory. So maybe Steve should present some type of Steve theory, some facts, and then that'll be the answer.
I think that's what he does every single time they ask him, where should we put the new borehole?
So then...
Because he picks the borehole spot quite often.
I still think that
I know Craig does too, but Steve, I think, picks the borehole more often than not. Because like he triangulates everything. He's like, okay, well, based on the way this is flowing here, this is going there. Let's do 30 feet away from this. See if we can pick up that tunnel again.
Except you want to pick 30 feet away because that. Anywho, but if that was the case, they should just hit it every time because he only has facts, right? No opinions.
They should, but he botches it every time, I guess. Sorry.
Guarantee.
You know what?
I'll give my GPS.
I got to call a spade a spade.
Okay. Now that we're done ragging on Steve, where was I? Okay, so he's explained that it's an alloy, copper, zinc, and a little bit of lead, and it cannot be from the Americas because nothing there was ever an alloy. So it was all pure. And that is 100% proof that it was not created by natives to America.
Woo! That made Alex, really happy.
Well, yeah.
Because they don't usually deal in absolutes on Oak Island.
Not 100%. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, Dana in the chat. This is funny. I have to show this.
What does it say?
New stamp, ducktail guess.
Instead of the guarantee?
That's so mean, but it's funny. I still got to get a stamp for Laird.
I bet
it just says it's a rock.
I bet you Steve would approve of the ducktail guess.
I doubt it.
No,
he might be offended.
He doesn't take himself that seriously.
He might.
I think he's a.
I mean, they do rag on him.
A funny, jolly bloke.
Jolly? Does he laugh with a belly full of jelly?
I don't think so.
Oh, right. That's just Santa. Got it. Holly jolly. Okay,
anyway,
let me reel that back.
Alex loved hearing that. Rick agreed. It's great to be able to eliminate something.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good. Dr. Edwin then he states that the elements that were found in the piece, what we called the copper piece before, the copper with designs on it, is 95% copper, 5% zinc, and 0.5% lead, which equals 100.5%. It's over 100%. But
they were rounding up because I remember the copper being like 94.7 something, and then the zinc being just a hair under 5. So
okay, I'll let it slide.
Okay, just this time. So he does deal in opinions.
I was just doing the math, but that math didn't add up.
Oh, but, you did the math. Good job.
It's all good. He said that means it's brass, like DJ was saying. And that's interesting because most brasses come from Europe, and it was common in the 1500s.
Also, in Egypt. Why is nobody mentioning Egypt?
Because they don't want it to be Egyptian. They don't want you to be right.
That's true. That sounds more like it.
Yeah.
Egypt.
Dr. Edwin says that the region that they're in, like Nova Scotia, is really the crossroads of the world because, they would have the Portuguese come up there. They would have, pirates over there. They'd have everybody coming over there. And the Portuguese were actually sailing, maybe not to Oak Island, but maybe to Oak Island, before Plymouth Rock was even established as like a, a settlement for the people from England. So, I mean, lots of stuff's been going down in this area for a long time, so could be anybody. Yeah, and I mean, they mentioned the Vikings, but it reminded me of a time that we had talked to Laird and done an interview. He's like, well, we know the Vikings were here. I mean, we have a Viking village, and very definitively. So anytime they say Viking or Norse and people are surprised, it kind of surprises me because they do have like this big Viking settlement there in Nova Scotia. Just throwing it out there. But cool. Maybe we're going to Norse around, of course. Oh my gosh, now you're getting into the Mr. Ed. That's great. All right. Clotworthy speculates if the object could be Portuguese in origin. Was it brought by an explorer or perhaps a missionary? Or could it connect to the Portuguese Knights Templar and therein connect them to the Oak Island mystery itself?
Of course. Why not?
Yeah. So Dr. Edwin says the possibility of this object coming to Oak Island increased beginning in the 1500s. And it could definitely be an older object, possibly of Viking origin.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And that they came over and then they plated all their stuff in brass. So it would have been, he would definitely put it in the running as a possibility.
I mean, yeah, he's looking for those links as far as people that would have had that composition of brass and what they have proof of people already establishing here. So Vikings make sense. And And then something when I was reading about that particular composition of brass was, we talked about this before, but the British using the brass plating on metal on like decorative accomplishment medals and on certain buttons, because it was golden color, even though it was a less expensive alloy for the military's uniforms. So we know the British were there. So that's a decent link, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You look like you're dying to say something.
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm just waiting for you to get what you're getting out.
Jeez.
No, you had something to say, so I was just letting you go.
Okay.
So, you done?
I'm done.
All right. So, Clotworthy explains background on Vikings and how they had been coming to North America since 985 AD. So, long time. Over 1,000 years.
Before the paved area in the swamp. Still want to know more.
So Rick tells Dr. Edwin that their ears perk up when they hear Vikings or Norse because of what they had found in the swamp dates, I think it is mostly swamp that dates to a high confidence to be in that era. Kind of like, because they have that wood that they found.
Yeah.
But that wood was like even older. It's like 700 AD.
Yeah. Well, at least within that range, right? Because it was Spooner that came back at the end of not last season, but the season before. That was like, he was so excited to reveal results. He looked like Craig revealing, results. He's like, what? And Gary's like, medieval, baby. No, is that what he said? Yeah.
He's or Templar, baby.
Or Templar, baby.
He says one or the other.
Yeah.
Those are his go-to.
That and boom, baby.
That's a new one. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, it's just, it really, perks up his ears. He's excited to hear that. So there was also something that was found by Robert Young on Lot 5 that could go back to Vikings as well. It was a coin that was found in 1996. So Clotworthy went into a little bit of an explanation of this coin that was found on Lot 5 by Robert Young, and 1996, that was 25 years ago, 26
so I'd
years
like
ago.
To not think about the 90s being that long ago. Thanks.
That was the first year of high school for me, and it was 26 years ago.
Okay.
Wow. So Clotworthy, he noted that Lot 5 is currently off limits to the Oak Island team. Wah, wah.
But this is the first we've really heard of them mention Lot 5.
Yeah, usually we see Lot 5 on the map because like they'll do like a survey of the whole island, and then they'll skip Lot 5.
Yeah, it's perfectly not scanned because, as we know, Lot 5 is was not owned by the brothers, but the late Robert Young. It's been a few years since he passed.
No, it was like last year. That's why
it went up for sale. But I think that it went up for sale a couple years after he had passed. Anyways, we know that the Laginas acquired it, not only for the next time on, but because of public records and and I saw metal detecting on Lot 5 in September.
Yeah, and she's nosy.
And I'm nosy. Public records are public records. And
sure,
it was even mentioned on my Salty Dog tour.
Okay. Well, that's great. Wonderful. But even though public records are public, doesn't mean that people need to just go and look through them all. Do you think, is it cool just like, what if I were just to look at public records for all of our neighbors all day long? Is that fine? Or is that a little too, just leave people alone?
No, this is public record of who owns what property. You can also own property as a corporation entity or an LLC or whatever with a different name, much as how the Laginas acquired their property when purchasing, right? They didn't put their names down. They were Michigan, whatever, the Michigan Mafia, as they were known, and people didn't actually know who they were, which is often why you'll see those. Okay, if someone's famous or known to have a lot of money, they'll purchase it under, put their offer in as a different name so that they are not, what I want to say, their offers not turned down because they're so-and-so.
Well, it's kind of like, it's like what Walt Disney did for Disney World, right? The land in Florida, they did like a shell company, made the bids so that they wouldn't be jacked up the price because, it's Disney.
Mm-hmm. Well, because, okay, anyways, it helps prevent those issues during negotiations, etc., etc. Anywho, Lot 5 we know has been acquired, and that there was what looked to be a Norse coin found on there in 96. There is a website with his finds, but I think, it's still up. But the artifacts are somewhere else. I saw them mention it on one of our other favorite podcasts, The Curse of Oak Island.
And Beyond.
And Beyond. They had a link in there. So if any of y'all are there and you want to share that, I cannot remember
okay.
where it was.
Okay. But I'm just saying, even though it's public records, people still, want privacy, right?
They do, but you also know it's public record. When property changes hands.
Let's get back to the Oak Island.
If you want to know specifically what this property is or what the history is, which is why I explain, you go through an escrow or a title company to try to figure out the history of the lot of when you're figuring out if there was previously buildings and such on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how some of the history stays intact because of these public records.
Okay. I have more to say, but I don't want to say it because it'll put you on another tangent.
Yeah, so don't say it.
All right. All right, let's go. So next, we still are talking to Dr. Edwin Barnhart. Okay. Dr. Edwin says he feels sorry for them on Oak Island because everything has been so disturbed. It's hard for archaeologists to gain perspective of what's happened on the land.
Mm-hmm.
But Gary cuts in and says, don't feel sorry for us. We're treasure hunting on Oak Island.
Yes. So. Jan, thank you. I was right. And the late Robert Young died October 28th, 2020.
It was 2 years ago.
Yes, I said a few years ago.
Yep. All right. Rick finishes up the war room scene by stating that he thinks they've got a new expert in the Oak Island family. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Edwin says, yep, I'm in.
Yep.
And
sounds like they couldn't get rid of him even if they wanted to.
That's what happens.
That's the curse.
That's the curse of Oak Island.
It sucks you win.
Yeah. So the fellowship laughs. They thank Dr. Edwin for his time and they move on with their lives.
Well, they move on with the dig at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we should do
Money Pit.
Do we want to do Money Pit stuff or do we want to talk about Swamp?
Oh, yeah. Let's go Swamp.
Yeah, I concur with that statement.
So we get some Tony time.
Tony time and
what?
Some Jeremy Church time.
Yeah, so then we should probably go to the research center first because that's when Jeremy shows up.
Yep, so let's start
So
there.
we've got Marty, Craig, Alex. They meet up with Jeremy Church. You might remember him from Eagle Canada.
Eagle Canada. Would you like to deal in some facts about what we learned where we're like, Jeremy Church has a panther on his jacket instead of an eagle?
Yeah, he's now with Panther Geoscience, and he was there with his colleague, Burton Cosgrove. So yeah, what did we learn?
So it looks like, because it's public information. We went over to even on LinkedIn, didn't see his affiliation with Eagle Canada anymore, and he's the one, when you look at previous episodes, and they even mention his work with Eagle Canada on this episode, he was the VP over at Eagle Canada. And
not no more,
but I think he's the P over at Panther.
The P,
not the VP.
Okay.
And I don't see anything about the seismic type of work that they did.
Yeah, so this is just going to literally come back and bite me from saying, yeah, we should give these people privacy and stuff. But then immediately when he's on the TV show, I'm typing into Google.
He's the one that started this.
because I was like, well, Jeremy's with Eagle Canada, and maybe he's with both, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
I thought maybe they contracted.
And I saw it. Yeah, well, I looked on LinkedIn, and I saw him on LinkedIn, and I didn't see Eagle Canada on his credentials at all. And so I was like, huh, that's weird. And then I went to Eagle Canada's website and I started looking, and it has like all the people that are like part of the company.
Even pictures of Jeremy.
Yeah, there is one picture of Jeremy on the website, but otherwise he's been scrubbed. Like, I don't know.
Well, and history's been scrubbed from Eagle's work there, but then you look at Panther's website and you see the big old thing saying as featured on History Channel and like other places that they're scanning.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when they did the seismic, right, all that seemed to be, they tailored it specifically for the use on Oak Island, kind of pushing an old technology, which is what it sounds like they're doing over here at Panther as well.
Sure.
Well, did Jeremy make some kind of agreement with Eagle, say, hey, well, I'll take this new stuff that maybe they didn't want to continue doing work with over there, like it just wasn't fitting within their wheelhouse, and then broke off to another company, because they could still contract out to Jeremy, right? And there's clearly enough of an okay conversation to say, what Alex says, when you were here before, it mentions the ship-shaped anomaly in the swamp. So I'm wondering if Jeremy had wanted to dive more into this additional technology, and Eagle Canada was going a different direction. And I don't know. We haven't seen him in quite a while.
Like, I don't know. Like, for me, just, I don't have any knowledge or back history between them at all, but
me either.
Just looking at the website, not seeing like Eagle Canada's website, and not seeing any kind of hey, we were on Oak Island, hey, we did this for them or anything. I don't know, it's almost like they're like maybe ashamed of being a part of that being part of their history, and Jeremy was the one that wasn't ashamed, and he's like, I'm going to embrace it. And he's literally embraced it, because even I think on LinkedIn it says he's like a consultant for, the Curse of Oak Island.
Oh yeah, like geophysicist something rather. And it may not. Okay, I mean, that's speculating, right? Completely. So we have no idea if they're ashamed. And they very well may not be. It just might be in part of their agreements when Jeremy wanted to continue doing this work in particular. And I'm sure that would take a lot of his hours that could be going elsewhere if he wanted to explore different technologies on Oak Island in particular. Maybe they made an agreement and a contract to allow him to take these certain things that maybe were proprietary and do that. And as they develop, like I said, for all we know, Eagle Canada could come back and contract with Jeremy on different projects.
Hey, you're right there with me. We're both speculating.
Yeah, we're speculating. So please, I beg of you, don't say we said something. I'd love to talk to Jeremy, though. I'm sure he's a very smart guy.
I want to talk to Alex the Giant.
I do too. I want to know where he's at.
Yeah. I didn't even see him on the Eagle Canada website. Where's Alex?
Maybe he's a Panther now.
Maybe. Oh, isn't it?
No, that's the Cobras.
Oh, same thing. Oh, yeah, but you got the claws anyways.
Yeah.
You can hiss and
yeah, see, that works. Now they just need like onesies, like purple onesies, and they can go. See what I did there? If you haven't seen Dodgeball, please do, so I don't look like such a fool.
I think they're making a sequel to Dodgeball.
I hope it's good.
It would have to have Ben Stiller in it.
Oh, or else it's not a proper sequel.
Yeah. All right, so we got Jeremy and
okay.
Let's see. Are we back?
I don't know. We had disappeared for a second.
Yeah,
Okay,
looks like we're
so
here.
lost picture.
Hi.
Oh, here it is. So I was checking on my phone. Sorry, guys.
No problem. I'll pick up from where I left off.
Okay.
All right. Clotworthy says that, okay, so Alex and Craig and Marty, they welcomed Jeremy and Burton into the research center.
Yes.
Clotworthy says that since the Dumas project has been delayed, even though we haven't talked about that yet, oops, they're calling in Jeremy to bring some high-tech stuff to deploy on the island. They're going to do a comprehensive geophysical scan of all 32 Oak Island lots.
Okay, so I was trying to pull up and look at this technology, and it seems very similar to, was it last year that they scanned with the same thing, like looking for certain metals and the guy walked around with the backpack to scan the entire island. They thought they had seen the hatch.
And that's when Lot 5 was blocked out?
One of the times. But I think what I had heard when we did an interview was that what they would maybe do a rescan later, which I think is what Jeremy's doing, after they've gone through and like considered picking up metal debris piles that they knew were laying around or whatever that could potentially throw off those findings. Because this seems like a new one of those.
Could be.
Oh, I was thinking of the VLF survey.
Gotcha.
Because that's conductivity.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Jeremy, what they're bringing to the table is Jeremy Church has brought a new near production prototype.
Near production.
Yeah. So they're almost ready to really deploy this thing, but this is a prototype. It's called the EM31-8.
Based off of old technology.
But it's a new riff on that technology.
Exactly.
It measures, like, Deidre was saying,
conductivity.
Yeah. And collects data up to 30 feet down. So that's not super deep, but it's something.
But remember when Gary brought out that, was it like a metal detector or something that was supposed to be able to penetrate pretty deep into the ground?
10 feet or something?
I thought it was deeper than that. I thought it was closer to 30 because Jack was like, well, like, so could tunnels or something show up? But I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm going to stop now. So I'm not dealing in opinions and I'm only dealing in facts.
Well, it's a fact that Jeremy says that you'll see metallic objects and also other disturbances, maybe prior old foundations and other anomalies. So that's what Jeremy's bringing to the table. Alex suggests working on the swamp first. Marty says the bugs aren't out yet, so that's a good recommendation.
Yep, and it's probably easier to scan the swamp when there's water in it, and you can do it in a boat versus having to walk through the muck.
That is true. It's pretty gross. There was, Alex reminds Jeremy of the ship-shape anomaly from the swamp, and Alex isn't going to forget, Jeremy's not going to forget that.
Nobody's going to forget that.
Yeah, and there was a little recap of Eagle Canada blowing up the swamp and getting that data for the ship-shape anomaly. Alex, Craig, and Marty send Jeremy and Burton on their way, and they wish them luck. They send them out to the swamp.
Yeah, and they're like, we need to call Tony.
Yeah. Get Tony on the phone ASAP.
Get him on the phone and into the water. So let's hop over to the swamp, which we have Craig and Alex who meet up with Tony to help Jeremy and Burton with a grid scan in the swamp.
Yeah. Tony says the best way to get straight lines is human power. So he is jumping in and going to basically push them all around the swamp.
I liked that Jeremy's like, that's why Tony's not in the boat rowing and he's pushing, kind of like saying, we did not push Tony out of the boat and tell him he's not allowed in, that he must push us around. There's a reason he's not allowed in the boat.
Isn't Tony more comfortable in the water anyway?
Tony is very comfortable in the water, and he has been in that swamp many, 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 many times, and he's happy to do it. He says it's not that bad. Whatever.
All right. So there was an animation explaining how the EM31-8 works, and but it said the data will require weeks of processing in order to generate a three-dimensional map of the targets. So it might not be immediate that we get stuff back. Like maybe not next week, but I think we get something back next week, because at the end of this, we're talking about next week on Curse of Oak Island. Jeremy Church is there, so
he might be there working on a different area, because could be sending the data for the swamp out to their resources at home, which probably have faster internet than their slow internet, guys. And having them process it while they're moving on to maybe lot 8, or is that the one that also had the lot 8 had the square depression in it that we
no, that was like lot 30 I think.
30?
I think so.
Well, it was one of those, but I'd be curious of what that looks like.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see when we get there. All right, so Alex, pushes the boat out into the water, basically lets Tony take over. They go up and down all around. They scan it all up, and then I don't know. That's kind of all they do with it,
yeah,
right?
That's it. I mean, it shows that they had a spike and something exciting, and he said it kind of correlated with the findings from a few years ago.
Yeah. All right. So, they're all excited about the possibilities, and that's
it's a game of hurry up and wait.
Yeah, it's we'll see what happens next. All right, now let's go to the money pit.
Okay, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this episode.
Yeah,
is the money pit.
Yeah.
Right?
So at the very, 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 very beginning of the episode,
it's all somber.
Yeah, it's like all sad. There's even like sad music playing.
I know.
All right, we had the Garden Shaft project has come to a standstill. Sad.
Little violins are playing.
Yeah. And then we had a little war room meeting. Craig, Rick, and Marty are all in a video conference with each other. Marty's not there, and so he says, "What's the good news?"
Bravo Tango.
Bravo Tango, yeah.
And he probably knows by the looks on their faces. No. Rick replies, "No."
Yeah, Craig explains that Dumas needs additional permits. And they got a list of about 50 questions from different governmental agencies that they have to answer to now. They're working through the questions, but now there's a delay, and it's not days, but it's a while. It's a
while, and Rick is really bummed because he's the one that's like, you ask me, it looks like there's no end in sight. But so he's not feeling very optimistic, which is rare for Rick.
Well, he wanted to get down there more than anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was his number one project, so I can understand his devastation.
I get that.
Yeah. So Rick says from like you said, his perspective, there's no end in sight. Marty just says great. Yeah. Marty asked if they're shut down until this gets resolved, and Rick says yes, and they've already left.
Yeah.
Dumas is out.
Dumas is out until they can get the permits. I mean, there's no reason for them to pay to have workers on the island until this can get done, right?
Yeah, so Rick explains it as Dumas was treating this as a rehabilitation of the shaft, but the government is treating it as a mining operation, and those two aren't the same thing. The rules for mining are tighter than shaft rehabilitation would be. Clotworthy explains history of the Garden Shaft, and that the wood that they had found at the very bottom of it was dated to like 1730. And there's also the gold, the water testing that revealed some gold samples. So
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just it's disappointing though. Rick does seem devastated. He says the Garden Shaft was supposed to be the focal point of the year.
And it still can be.
It still can be.
But he doesn't know at that time, right?
Yeah. Well, this is all happening in real time for them. So
yeah.
Rick says that when this is finally resolved, they'll be able to continue. But basically, this might not resolve with enough time to fully explore it this year. And the drill program has not been affected by this, so there's still a lot of work that can be done.
They're doing it right, and they're protecting themselves by going through these hoops, as frustrating as it is.
Definitely frustrating.
So now to the actual money pit first glance.
Yes.
Right?
Terry, Paul, Steve, and Charles are manning the operating table.
That's right. And they receive a sausage from IJ 15.25 at about 98 feet.
Perfect. Well, and Cloutworthy explains that they're looking for the continuation of a tunnel at this point at a depth of around 103 feet. They get the 98 to 108 foot casing onto the table, and it looks like they missed the tunnel. There's no wood whatsoever.
And I believe this is that hole that was right inside of the circle, right? So they were trying to see if they could hit their tunnel at that next mark.
The muon circle.
Yes, in the muon circle. And Steve says it's a miss, but it's still valuable data. And agreed, at least by taking that hit, they know it's not there. So the absence of data is still data.
Exactly. We return to the money pit a little bit later on. They're working on borehole L15 with Terry and Charles, and they're looking for the tunnel, thought to be, again, around 103 feet deep. Charles says, if it's there, we'll hit it.
Exactly. This is the tunnel they've been chasing from the south towards the beginning of the season, not the new one that they accidentally found last week.
So Mike Tedford from Choice Drilling says, "Oh yeah, baby," confirming that they likely hit the tunnel. Like, he was excited.
He was very excited.
The casing came up with a depth to the bottom of 109 feet. And there was wood, but not wood that indicated a tunnel.
Say what?
Yeah, so there was a little bit of wood, and then it was like pristine soil. So they
could have clipped an edge or something like that.
That's what Charles thought. Maybe they nicked it. They concluded that this sample will not give them a direction of the tunnel. And Terry and Charles agree that more exploration needs to be done, but they should carry on to a depth of 145 feet to finish this hole.
Exactly. Might as well see if there's another structure below, right? We already know we've seen stacked tunnels.
Yeah, well, they could have given up. And it's a good thing they didn't, because there's something exciting about to happen.
Bum, bum, bum. Happens after Alex and Steve join them, right? Terry tells Alex that they're bringing up a sample from 139 feet to 149 feet, so the 10-foot section in L15. And Mike Tedford brings the sample to the table of that range, and Alex finds it odd. He's like, there should be more stuff in that tube.
Yep, and there wasn't. It's because Mike Tedford again explained that at 146 feet, the bottom dropped out of it, almost like nothing was there. Alex asks, like a void?
Well, yeah, nothing there would be void of things. Just throwing it out there.
And so it's another cavity, and it's a hole. Like, it's a hole at the bottom of a hole.
Right. And Terry asks how far it dropped when he hit at the 146 mark. And Mike tells him about 10 feet. I mean, that's a huge amount.
Void.
I mean,
that's a big void
compared to the 4 feet we were seeing with the other tunnels.
Yeah. So Alex asks if there are any known voids in the area, and Terry tells him no. Alex asks, well, it's not a natural cavity, right? He's like trying to get him to say, yeah, it's definitely man-made. But
in my response, in my head, if I was standing there, would have been, anything can happen on Oak Island. So maybe.
Yeah. Terry says, we haven't seen it. And Alex says, that's fair.
Yeah.
And he laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve says that this is brand new cavity, and luckily they have sonar and a camera. So the first thing they should do is put a camera down there and see if they can see an opening.
Exactly. Alex agrees and says he thinks Uncle Rick would want to know about this, so he's going to let him know, and they can get the camera set up. So guess what? They get the camera set up
the next morning.
Yes.
On Oak Island.
In the money pit.
All right. So Rick and Marty met up with Scott, Steve, and Paul, the guys that manned the thing. What is this
structure that appears and has all this like tech in it?
Yeah, what would you even call that? It's like the Oak Island tent.
Marty shows up, and what does he say? He's like, "Oh, you guys are high class over here." He's all in press.
Yeah, but we have names for everything. We have the war room. We have the interpretive center. We have this, that, and the other. What are we going to call this thing?
You know what this is? They've got all the screens.
Okay.
And they got the tech. And, there's a bunch of people down there, like, watching. And
they're going to call it CTU.
They're going to call it the control center.
Oh.
Because that's what it is. I mean, Steve has to stand out there and drop the camera. And, Steve's the object where they're like, yeah, keep going. And they get to then watch from the command center. I mean, and that's where all the really cool stuff happens.
Okay, so the command center. That's what we're calling it.
I mean, they're kind of like Oz. They are the man behind the curtain, pulling the strings at the command center.
Okay, I like it. We'll go with that.
Control center, command center.
Yeah,
one of those.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun. So Marty says that he wants to name this void.
Yeah,
and he seems really excited about it,
and like can't wait to deliver this.
Yeah, and what does he call it?
And everybody is just looking at him like, okay, we're waiting for it.
And he calls it
Aladdin's Cave. And know what I yell at the screen? It's called the Cave of Wonders. Like, welcome to Aladdin's Cave. No, it's who disturbs my slumber.
Yeah, it's the Cave of Wonders.
It's the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah, touch nothing but the lamp.
Who dares to enter? It's the Cave of Wonders.
He says, who disturbs my slumber?
I said that.
No, you said
a little bit ago.
Oh,
before that was my first raspy.
My bad.
But yeah, it is definitely the Cave of Wonders and not Aladdin's Cave. Did you see the look on everybody else's face when he said Aladdin's Cave?
They're like, dude, have you ever watched a cartoon?
Right? I mean, they've got kids.
Well, Alex is a little bit younger than me, so he's like he's in the age where he would watch a lot of Aladdin.
And he's probably like, Dad, stop embarrassing me. And Steve has a child. Mm-hmm. He's probably watched plenty of Aladdin and knows it's the Cave of Wonders.
Yeah. Okay, so have you ever? Okay, he wants the Aladdin's Cave. Okay, whatever.
Cave of Wonders.
Have you ever been to Aladdin's Castle?
No.
I have.
Good on you.
It was awesome.
I know where the Aladdin Theater is.
Yeah, but the Aladdin's Castle, it used to be a chain of arcades when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, so many hours of fun in the Aladdin's Castle.
Okay.
So I could see Aladdin's Castle. I could see the Cave of Wonders. I'm not feeling the Aladdin's Cave. So I think
we can call it Marty's Cave.
That's better than Aladdin's Cave because Aladdin's Cave isn't a thing.
No, and it tried to kill him.
It's a Cave of Wonders.
Yeah, the Cave of Wonders tried to kill him. So let's not name it after that.
But okay, so touch nothing but the lamp.
Yeah, and Abu's like, put gems in my eyes.
And he didn't touch those. He stood behind them. They touched the carpet though.
They did.
Or did the carpet touch them?
The carpet also saved them.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need is a magic carpet to solve this.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So, anywho, Marty's reasoning is he says, touch nothing. So he does have the Aladdin thing going.
He does.
He's really trying hard.
He's being hip to the groove. We're trying.
He's trying.
Sorry, Marty, but good try. A for effort.
Yeah. Well, Paul had asked, are you trying to find some magic down there?
Gonna need some.
Yeah. All right. So in the side interview, Rick says that this void/cavity is interesting. And he asks us, is it man-made?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have an association with treasure deposition? Could it be, can there be a possible explanation for it?
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. Steve is slowly feeding the camera, down the tube.
Mm-hmm.
Scott tells him to slow down when they get to 150. And then they'll be able to see it coming out of the casing.
Exactly.
They enter the cavity, they see the rocks, and I put in the notes, they see rocks that no human has ever seen before. Unless somebody built this.
Yeah, and then they would have built with those
That's true.
rocks. So yeah, a human may have, or a magic carpet.
Could be.
Or whatever.
Yeah. In a side interview, Marty says that the cave is very interesting to him. How can it be a natural feature? He just doesn't see it. Scott is using the Xbox controller to perfection.
He is. Nicely done, Scott.
I wrote in my notes, I bet he's good at Halo. I'll play him. I'll whoop him.
I bet you he doesn't play like he is way too busy to play Xbox.
Well, then I would definitely whoop him.
He plays real life Xbox, not like virtual reality. He's like, okay, we're gonna put in the Cave of Wonders and be like, meh! And he's
okay,
you know.
Yeah. So Scott, with his Xbox controller in hand, is continuing scanning around the void. Rick noted something that looked strange to him, so he has Scott focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
It has strange little fractures in the rock.
Mm-hmm.
There's more scanning, and Marty tells Scott to stop and focus on this rectangular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty says it's pretty square. It's like almost like a pedestal sticking out.
We all see what we would like to see.
What did
And
you
there
see?
is just like different, I see the angular features. And like you said, if it was built by man, some man has seen it before. I don't know that a pedestal is necessarily what it is. The being so square, maybe 90-foot stone, could be just something else.
I'm thinking
entirely.
I'm thinking that's what the lamp was sitting on.
I was gonna mention that. It feels like what the lamp was sitting on, or the idol in Indiana Jones, where you have to put the piece, the sand on,
sandbag,
and then it doesn't work. So that's probably what you were supposed to put the sand on to keep.
And somebody did it, and they triggered the booby traps, and it all got flooded.
Yeah, like we talked about. What was it last episode? And we're like, hey, maybe the 90-foot stone.
That was it.
You were supposed to put you were supposed to put 90 something, or what did it say? Pounds, whatever pounds on there.
2 million pounds?
Yeah, maybe we're supposed to put 2 million pounds on there. And yeah.
All right. In a side interview, Rick says that every expert that they've ever talked to says that right angles should not be just hanging out in nature.
Not like that.
Not like that. So it really sticks out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were so excited about it.
It's hard with the shadows. And they have a light on
Mm-hmm.
there. It could have also just bit the way it was reflecting, creating something that looked more angular. But it was, 10 feet?
Yeah. It would be interesting if they put like a whole bunch of lights on the rope going down,
mm-hmm.
So they can get they can really flood out the whole thing. I don't know if that would help or hinder.
Not when it's got the mini particles in there, because, for example, when you're driving in the fog, you put your fog lights on, they're usually at the bottom and they're angled in a specific way, because when it's foggy out, what happens is there's water standing in the air and it reflects the light back at you and reduces the visibility. Unless the water's pretty clear, then I'd assume that it would mess up the visibility.
Don't know. I'm not Steve. I'm not Scott. I wouldn't know. They would know. You're friends with them. You could ask them. You can recommend them.
Do you know how they added light in there? Was it last episode? You see Scott with some duct tape and
that was pretty good.
I love your entrepreneurial spirit there, Scott. And there's a camera and he's like, he just duct tapes it on. Here we go.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
How many flashlights are in the bottom of money pit caverns? I'm curious.
Maybe none. Maybe they're just really careful and bring them back up in one piece.
You can be careful, but it's Oak Island. That is all.
Even in the space station, they lose tools all the time, and they just they because they're floating in zero gravity, and they'll let go of a screwdriver when they're outside doing a spacewalk, working on something, and it'll get out of reach and they can't get it. There it goes.
Year before last, and the giant pickaxe they pulled out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes a tool falls and they're like, oh, there's probably a ton of 10mm sockets down there. That's the one you always lose. So if you see circles, guys, and they're shiny gold things, they're probably really just 10mm sockets of the Templars.
Okay. All right. So Rick at this point suggests
2 million pounds of them.
Okay, calm down. You're funny, okay?
I know.
All right, so Rick suggests sonar mapping at this point, and Steve says he needs more data from this cavity, and Marty gives him the thumbs up to run that sonar. Yeah. So that's what we're going to see next week. In a little side interview to wrap up the episode, Rick says it's remarkable, and they need to understand the size of this thing. The ceiling, the floor, and all that can be done with the 3D mapping sonar, and that's it. They're excited to get in there with the other technologies they have to see what else they can find.
So in this hole, they didn't find anything at the 103 mark, which is that tunnel they were chasing.
Yep.
Right. And then there's also, but they find something much deeper.
Yeah.
So this is not the tunnel.
Yeah, this is like 150 feet down.
And at 10 feet big, I mean, it could be a cavern that holds things.
Yeah, so what's weird is next time on the Curse of Oak Island here, we see them set up the sonar. And Scott, Steve, and Paul lower the sonar into the L15. At least we think it's L15. And then we hear Marty say, this could be the offset chamber. And I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't the offset chamber be closer to the surface? Isn't that what Marty keeps saying? Offset chamber going to be way closer to the surface. This is way deeper than anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I don't know engineerily if the offset chamber would, like, I don't know. But you're right. Unless, I don't think that is the higher ground.
No, I don't think so. But continuing on the next time on the Curse of Oak Island, in the war room, we have Craig, Marty, Rick, Alex, and Tom Nolan meeting up with Jeremy Church. Of course. I mean, if Tom's there, it's about the swamp. Yeah. And he explains about the anomaly at the northern part of the swamp near the eye of the swamp.
I'm excited to see more about that.
Yeah, Marty asks if it could be from a metal box, and Jeremy says, sure. And Marty says, wow.
Well, Marty's very eager at the idea of a metal box.
It's just, I like it. It's just funny when they propose something sometimes and they want it to be something and they just throw it out there. And, you know.
That's not a confirmation bias at all.
Yeah, but then like the people say, well, it could be because it could be anything.
It could also be a golden unicorn statue.
Yeah, but Jeremy Church, his real answer was probably like, not likely, but it could be. And they cut out the not likely part.
Funny how that works.
They like to do that. And it's fine because it's something that's supposed to make you want to be excited to watch the next episode. It's all good. All right. So with a huge smile, Rick Lagina, along with Laird Nevin and Gary Drayton, removed the no trespassing sign and the private property sign at Lot 5. And we hear Marty say, we have managed to purchase Lot 5.
Yay!
That's exciting.
That is exciting. So they're taking down that sign, says no trespassing, because they're no longer trespassing if they were to cross that line.
Yeah. Yep. And the preview ends with, I think, Deidre's favorite part.
It does?
Well, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this made me laugh. So Gary and Rick, Rick's the lucky digger, metal detecting together, and Gary screams, oh, look at that. And he practically jumps off the ground. No, I think he does jump off the ground. He was like, ah!
He was so excited.
Like, if you need a gif of like being over the moon excited, that clip right there is it.
Hopefully we get another angle and it's even like better during the show.
The real question is, was that the gold dance?
It could have been. I don't know. But he said, look at that. That's treasure mate. And then he and Rick give him a big high five.
That's right.
And that's the end of the episode. But
Rick's there for the good stuff.
I think that was a really fun episode.
Yeah.
And next week looks to be even better.
Be interesting to see what the data that comes back from the swamp is, especially since we know there was a what do I want to say? A perimeter up there, like a buffer zone that they weren't allowed to go in. So if they could find data within there, then maybe they'll be able to actually explore it. But anyway.
Perhaps. All right. So that's it.
That's it.
That's the episode. Before we go, we do need to do a trivia thing.
Yes.
We also need to spout out our contact info and stuff.
Sure.
So let's what do you want? Let's do the trivia first.
Okay, trivia first.
All right. So today at 3 p.m. Pacific, less than an hour from now, 6 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna do Oak Island trivia. It's gonna be 20 trivia questions, 10 from last week's episode, which was Over the Muon, and then 10 from this week's episode, Norsing Around. So last week we did a question after the podcast about the first 10 questions.
Yes.
Sorry. Today we're going to do a question that's between 11 and 20 from this week's episode.
My foot's falling asleep.
Uh-oh, your bad foot.
Yep.
Ouch. Oh, and then that reminds me, we might be doing a podcast a little early next week.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second. Let's do trivia first.
Yes.
I need you to pick a number between 11 and 20, and we will do an Oak Island trivia question from this week. We'll say it so that everybody gets a leg up.
16.
Okay, 16. So 11, 12, 13, 14. All right. I don't like this one.
Why?
I don't know. I wrote it. All right. Question number 16. Oh, this is the one I thought you would like. Okay. Question 16. Which of the fearsome foursome running the swamp operation during episode 7 was not wearing sunglasses? Is it 1, Tony Sampson, 2, Burton Cosgrove, 3, Alex Lagina, or 4, Jeremy Church? One of them wasn't. The rest were. Go look it up, and then you'll have an answer to Oak Island Trivia tonight.
So Oak Island Trivia is at 3 p.m. Pacific. So we're looking at about 45 minutes from now.
Yep.
We'll be covering episode 6, which is Over the Muon.
Yep.
And then episode 7, Norsing Around.
That's right. And then we will be back tomorrow for Oak Island pregame. And that will be at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. And beyond that, though, we don't know. Like, Deidre needs to make a choice. I think we're going to do maybe Saturday.
Saturday or Sunday for the next recap episode. I'm officially a week out from my surgery, which is on Monday, which is when we would normally do our recap episode. That's just not going to work.
1 week from right now, you might be like passed out, under the effects of.
I may be
you're going to be out
surgery, or I may be at home. I might be heading in.
What time's your surgery?
Oh, you don't know until Friday.
Okay. Well, I guess you'll know on Friday.
So I'll know then.
Yes.
So,
we're not going to be here for our regular podcast next week, and there's no trivia next week. So in 2 weeks, we'll do trivia again.
Yes.
And we will do a podcast probably on Saturday, I'm thinking. And we'll do some kind of live stream when Deidre's all groggy on Monday.
I probably will have no control over what time or when that is, or be able to say no, because...
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask you first. Like, I was going to say, hey, do you want to do this? You don't have to. But she said she doesn't have control, so I'm taking control.
I don't. So if you want to find us online, you can find us on Facebook at Oak Island Podcast, on Instagram at Oak Island Podcast, Twitter at Oak Island Pod. Email us at oakislandpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it.
That's it.
Yep.
And shout out to Susan for posting all of our stuff in the chat, like she always does. Thank you. And you could go to patreon.com/Oak Island Podcast if you want to support us in any amount. So
you can also find us on YouTube.
Yay.
On YouTube at Oak Island Podcast. I didn't mention that.
Cool. So that's everything. Anything else you got to say?
Well, no, except for until next time.
Could it be?
Bye.